There was a time when the world stopped singing, not with war, though there had been war, not with fire, though cities had burned, but with silence, the kind that comes when hope has been rationed, when love is seen as weakness, and when the earth, after centuries of bleeding, simply stopped answering. They called it the Great Hush. Birds no longer sang at dawn. Rivers ran dry or thick with sludge. Children were born without knowing the scent of rain on soil. And the last forests stood like tombs, their trunks carved with names of the dead. In the final years, a rumor spread, not through networks, for most had collapsed, but by word, by breath, by those who walked the wastelands with nothing but a name on their lips. He is walking again, not in glory, not in light, but in the wound. They said he walked the scorched plains where farmers once knelt in prayer. He stood in the ruins of hospitals where mothers wept over stillborn infants. He knelt beside the refugee child buried in sand, whispering, "I was thirsty and you gave me water." And when no one was looking, he placed his hands on the cracked earth and the soil trembled. But no one saw him, not with eyes, only with the part of the soul that remembers God. Then came Mara, a biologist, a skeptic, a woman who had once believed only in data, in proof, in what could be measured. She had spent her life studying extinction, cataloging species lost, writing reports no one read. When the last coral reef died, she wept not for the reef, but because she realized we are next. She left the last research dome and walked north toward the forbidden zone, where radiation, heat, and despair had made the land unlivable. She didn't go to survive. She went to die, to return her body to the soil, even if it could no longer receive her. On the seventh day, starving and delirious, she found a figure sitting beneath a dead oak. He wore no crown, no robe, no sign of power, just a simple tunic, torn at the hem, stained with dirt and something darker, like old blood. His face was neither young nor old. It was known, as if she had seen it in every act of kindness she'd ever witnessed, in every face of someone who suffered and still said, "Go in peace." And yet, she did not believe. "You're not real," she whispered, collapsing to her knees. "You're a hallucination. Heat, grief, my mind breaking." The man looked at her, not with pity, with recognition. "You measured the dying," he said, his voice low, like wind through dry grass. "But you never measured the love that held them at the end." She shook her head. "Love doesn't stop extinction. Data does, action. But we failed, all of us." "I know," he said. "I felt the nails. I tasted the vinegar. I heard the laughter. I know what failure feels like." He paused. "I also know what comes after." She looked up. "What comes after?" "Ash, silence, the end." "No," he said. "What comes after is me." Then he did something that broke her. He reached into the cracked ground, pulled back a layer of dust, and pressed his palm flat against the dead soil. And he wept, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply, like the earth itself was crying through him. Tears fell, not onto the ground, but into it, like seed, like water, like prayer. And where his tears fell, something happened. A single blade of green pierced the ash, then another, then a vine, thin and trembling, curled around his wrist. The dead oak groaned. A bud, impossible ancient, swelled on one of its branches. Mara fell forward, sobbing. "Why now? Why here? Why this?" "Because this is where I always return," he said. "Not to palaces, not to triumph, but to the place of abandonment, to the edge of despair, to the heart of the wound." He looked at her. "I horizon, where the sky was still blackened, but where, just at the edge, a sliver of blue dared to return. Mara did not follow. She stayed. She took his place beneath the oak. She pressed her own hands into the soil. She wept for the world. And then she planted a seed she didn't know she was carrying. Years passed. No one knows how it began, but the green returned. Not by machines, not by decree, but by thousands, then millions, of people who one day simply chose to stop destroying, to plant, to forgive, to feed the hungry, to say this land is sacred, to believe against all evidence that love is stronger than death. And in every village, in every forest, reborn, in every child who laughed beside a flowing stream, there was a story. He walked among us when we were lost. He touched the earth and it remembered life. He wept and the world began to heal. And he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and I will never leave you. Not in the beginning, not in the ending, but in every moment between, where love still dares to grow. Now, if you walk through the new forests, or stand by rivers that sing again, or hold a child born into a world returning to breath, listen, not for thunder, not for signs, but for the quiet step beside you, the warmth in the sunlight, the inexplicable courage in your chest when all seems lost. That is him, the one who walks the wound, the first and the last, the living one. And he whispers, not to the powerful, but to the tender-hearted, do not be afraid. I was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And so is the world, because I love it.